My friends and I, we are currently in the process of developing a mastermind group. They started with it way earlier, and then I happened to uh, fall into that, into some corners, saw the potential, and saw like what great and open-minded people there are, very smart people. And over the time, it got more and more interesting. I keep thinking about what's the reason for it and how it is built up. So it's not just a normal mastermind where you come together and throw out ideas. From the structure, it is a bi-weekly mastermind, a bi-weekly group where you meet online. You have one person that is doing the moderation, welcomes the people when they come online. You have a group. Currently we are about 4 people per group. We used to have more, but we were seeing that it took a long time to go through every person, and that got like a little bit boring. It was not really necessary to have so many people. The goal is not to really solve problems. Well, to that we didn't really have a strict goal with it finished. We knew in our minds that there's a purpose behind it, there's a goal and the value behind this mechanic, but we didn't want to nail it down. We want to also see what else we can press out of it, in which direction it develops, and how it works together with the methods that we apply. For that reason, we decided to have the group smaller, so maximum of 5 and rather 3 to 4 people. And what we do is we have this introduction at the beginning, of course, one moderator that takes care that nobody is taking the advantage of the other people, talking way too long and interrupting people. But mostly it's not a big problem. Yeah, but you know, it's good to have one person that has the authority, that can also practice also this moderation and taking the authority and takes the responsibility, and also the praise, of course, if the meeting turns out well. So this person then welcomes the people, and then we have a round where in a randomly generated order the people will talk about what is in their life, what is currently important in their life, what they are dealing with, what they think is interesting for themselves. And they give basically, we'll say roughly 7 minutes, they talk about it. After the 7 minutes, I think it's like 3 minutes or something, time where people can ask questions or have input, ask for understanding. If they didn't get something really, they can ask back, and then the person that was its turn can reiterate and explain itself, and then give some input. And that goes randomly through each person, with newcomers coming always at the end, so that they can see what it's about, how it works, and then finishes the session. So not more than 1 or 2 hours. 2 hours if it gets really exciting, but mostly it's about 1 hour, because there will always be a little bit more talking than those 3 minutes of discussion. After all, those minutes are not a goal, but more like a rule of thumb, that the person that has the turn knows to shorten it up, to not go from one story to the other and explain. No, you have to already think beforehand what you want to talk about, what is important for you, and narrow it down, so you already pre-process and think about this in your mind. So basically it's just talking with each other, but for so many times we always had a really, really good time. And when we were finishing it, we were very energized and happy about it. So it got me thinking about it, also about the purpose and what direction can it go. And I had to think about it that when you are thinking about your problems, your system, why you would need such a mastermind is you can basically always see your situation only through your own interpretation, through your own perception. So even when you see a video of yourself or you see yourself in the mirror, you will always have data coming in, and then it finally gets processed in your head and you interpret it into a situation. You have all the emotional baggage towards things, you have the preset notions about something, your cultural upbringing lets you interpret things different, your experience, and also over the life you just have some things that you think about a lot, and then you just go into a circle and you are in this storm, and even if you are calm, and then you need some other input. So, and this is where other people come in. You basically explain your situation, what it looks like, and what you then get is the reflection from the minds of the other participants. They reinterpret it with their perception of life and how it looks like, and then reflect that back to you. So you get to see your life situation from other perspectives, which you wouldn't have beforehand. So you think about, you see it completely from another perspective, or maybe you see things that you wouldn't have noticed before. I mean, you can literally get blind to some things when you see things really optically in the world. All this information data is going to the back of your brain, and there you have pattern recognition that is then interpreting the forms of objects and then assigns them an identity. So, and when those don't exist for something, then you recognize it wrong, and it can be also that it doesn't get recognized at all and you ignore it, you don't see it. So everything that you see and hear and feel, you have to think about it. It's not outside, you're not in this world, but everything that's around you is all coming from the back of your head. So it's like this bottleneck, this thin bottleneck where it goes all through, and this is where it all comes from. It comes not from the eyes, it comes not from the nose or the skin, it comes all through this, and this is where the data gets sorted and then processed with all this years and years of conditioning that you went through. So when you get now this perspective of other people, they can explain it to you. So you can't push it through this as well, but you learn new ways of seeing things. So when you have a new way of seeing something, this is basically then this, you connect this, you trigger this emotion of discovery. You find like the same one that when you find a new place, when you climb up the mountain, you always see your feet all the time and the path, and then you turn around and you can see into the distance. You get a new perspective on earth and you see down on the land, and this is a feel of discovery. That's the same when you have someone tell a good joke, then the person tells the joke, and then you all think like, oh, this is happening, and then comes the pointer, the joke, where it goes completely somewhere else, and then, oh, it's a new way to think. Or when you learn something else new, when you discover places, when you finally grasp an idea and you find a new way to thinking, this is then triggering a dopamine reflex, a dopamine dopamine release. That sounds better. A dopamine release, so you expand your worldview. So for this you don't need 7 people. For this, maybe I haven't thought about this so much, what is the optimal amount, But there could be an amount where you get an overload of new perspectives. So it could be that you first have an overload because you have too many people and each one gives their perspective and then you don't know what's going on. And also when you have a smaller group, what is also important is that you have the trust, that you trust in those people that give you the perspective. If the group grows, then you have a higher chance that the people say what they think is acceptable in the group. So when you're in the group, you always think back, I want to be liked, and I want to say something that is funny or likable. I don't want to piss someone off. So you're most likely to pre-filter that and say something that is common and accepted with bigger growing groups. So that's maybe one point where it's important that the group is smaller. Even though you trust all those people, if you have 20 people, you trust them a lot, you have still this effect, and you will not have people being truthful and honesty to you if you have a smaller group of 3 to 4 people, where you then get feedback from 2 to 3 people. So this is something very important that the group to think of. That would be a factor that the group doesn't get too big. So to reiterate, you need a small group with people that you trust. You have to bring out your perspective and get feedback and some reinterpretation. Very important, they don't have to fix your problems. They don't have to come up with solutions. They just have to come up with new interpretation of the situation so that you find another angle, and then suddenly you go from the 2-dimensional view to a 3-dimensional, and you can go around the problem and it solves itself after some thinking. So you don't have to put the possible success of this session on the fact that you actually found a session or not. And yeah, I want to invite you to try the same. Maybe get some friends together. There might be an effect for people that if they meet in person, that it's more likely that they try to filter this. There is the benefit of online communication that you're not sitting with people together, so you are more likely to tell the truth or what you're thinking about. But it could also be that I misinterpret that and that it's not valid for video conferences, but is more valid for forums where you type text. So basically you just read what people before you were saying and then you process it, get your own conclusion and then formulate it in a text and put it out again, and that is then more true. But I think it might be easier to find like-minded and smart people that you trust online, maybe, or it's at least easier to meet with them because you might not always have people in your area or time for that because you have to drive somewhere. But yeah, try it out, have a mastermind and don't focus on having to come up with new ideas. It's enough if you just get this feedback of new perspectives, and you don't have to have a big amount of people, you don't have to have epiphanies in it or something. The value is in the simpleness. Yeah.